what we can do today. Are you up for this?
Yes.
Good. I don't know. Okay, today is definitely going to be a Deutsche Tag, okay? Well, we've already heard from one German, right? Okay, so let's hear from another one. Carl Jung. Okay, everybody familiar with Carl? You've heard of him anyhow, right? Right. Okay, so we're going to go into considerations of preferences that we have for success. Those preferences are really things that we choose to relate to and express through. There are two mutually exclusive attitudes: extroversion and introversion. I think I'm in a room full of introverts right now. Because you see, an introvert is more comfortable in the inner world of thoughts and feelings, where they see the world in terms of how it affects them. Extroverts, on the other hand, feel more at home with the world of objects and other people. They're more concerned with their impact upon the world. Impact upon the world. Good. So, introverts seem to be more comfortable living alone and being by themselves. They depend on their me time to recharge. They become immersed in their inner world, and consequently they run the risk of losing touch with their surroundings or their outer world. If you've ever met an introvert, then you probably know this to be true, especially when you look in the mirror and see them shy away from you. Extroverts are actively engaged and actively involved in the world of people and things. They're socially active and more aware of what's going on around them. They like to take part in groups, communities, and probable places where they have a chance to interact. The idea of being alone terrifies them because it leaves them feeling alienated. So, all of us have a little bit of both in us. It isn't just exclusive with any of us. But, for example, extroverts depend on their external environment almost all of the time. But in life, we find situations where the solution to our problems, they lie within us. If extroverts can learn to introspect, they can save themselves from a lot of anxiety and restlessness. As we know, introverts, they have a tendency to depend upon their thoughts and feelings way too much. I've known a few introverts in my life, one for about almost 70 years. And I've also noticed with those that I've met and know, they're at a greater risk of falling into depression because of their particular habit to isolate themselves in troubling times. So just like the extrovert, if there can be a shift where there's a search to the introverted possibilities, the same is true with an introvert. Because if an introvert consciously works on activating the dormant extrovert qualities and chooses to speak with people about his or her problem, then the situation might improve. Now, we're just talking about possibilities here. And we're also talking about preferences here. Jung went on to say that psychological functions are very important to recognize and to look in yourself to begin to see how they work. Now, each one of these is experienced either in an extroverted or an introverted fashion. So it isn't something that's just exclusive to one or the other. And I wanted to bring these forward because here we are talking about preferences. Think about it. Do you have a preference so far as how you focus your attention? If you're an extrovert, then you're definitely going to tend to focus your attention on the outer world of people and things. And likewise, if you're an introvert, you're going to tend to focus your attention on the inner world of ideas and expressions. Now, with this in mind, take into consideration that you probably also have preferences of how you take in information. I mean, we all take it in, but we're very selective about what we take in and how we take it in. So some people prefer to take things in by sensing. In other words, they depend upon the 5 physical senses to get their input. And also when they take it in with this, then their focus happens to be on here and now. Other people, on the other hand, have a preference of taking things in so far as intuiting. They prefer intuition, and they tend to take information from patterns and the big picture and focus on future possibilities. Okay, how do you prefer to make your decisions? A lot of people prefer to make their decisions by thinking. Thinking tends to make the decisions based primarily on logic and an objective analysis. And that objective analysis has to do with cause and effect. Whereas others prefer the feeling approach. People who prefer feeling tend to make decisions based primarily on values and a subjective evaluation of person-centered concerns. I'm sure you've met people who are feeling-oriented. It's fun, isn't it? Okay, now, the last thing, of course, I want to bring to your attention is how you prefer to deal with the outer world. There are those who prefer to deal with the outer world by judging. And those who tend to prefer this, they like a planned and organized approach to life and prefer to have things settled. Okay? Then the others, their preference is toward perceiving. I know some of you are really getting into this. Wonderful. Okay, so people who prefer perceiving tend to like a flexible and spontaneous approach to life and prefer to keep their options open, which can lead to never making the decision. Because after all, eventually you get to the place to where that decision no longer needs to be made. Okay, so bringing these things together, I know can be a little overwhelming because you tend to operate with just a few. But the object of this today is to help you to realize you have access to all of these. And to understand that in times when we're exposed to dynamic situations, it's great to have a state of mind that is dynamic in nature, instead of so by rote, so by habit. So I wanted to bring then into the picture something that's in your church bulletin, and it's a paragraph. So just because a situation is not what we wanted to happen, or what we planned on happening, does not necessarily mean that it was bad. We can look at life in two different ways. One is that things don't go as planned, and that's a bad thing. Or we can look at it as if we live in a universe that is always conspiring for our greater good. So when something goes wrong or unplanned, we trust that it's for our greater good. And that's even if we never know the reason why. The first option leaves us in a constant resistance and angry, bitter, and stressed out. And the second leaves us grateful, accepting, and excited every day about what the day may bring. And that can happen while you're just sitting there minding your own business, as I was just before today's lecture. And then I had someone come in and tell me that my dog was in the process of chewing up all of the rugs in the kitchen. Now, let's see. I feel So when I found myself spiraling to a funk, I turned that around and I thought, hey, I may not know why, but a greater good is at work in all of this. And instead of me sitting here fretting over something I can't change from where I am anyhow, I'm going to open myself up to where I am, because where I am is definitely going to have an effect upon where I will be, and also it's going to have an effect upon you right now. So instead of moaning and groaning and bitching and putting it on you through projection and saying, it's your fault that I'm feeling lousy, I decided not to go there. And instead, I decided to bring it forth like good old Bob Marley would say. Remember Bob Marley? Yeah. He said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our own minds. Thank you. For more information about the Metaphysical Church of Enlightenment or the Rodin Foundation, please go to our website at www.rodin.org. If you have been inspired by the revelations shared in these podcasts, please donate to the Rodin Foundation's ongoing efforts to help others help themselves at www.rodin.org/donate.